evidence of Coriolis sun flares, solar flares, that the atmosphere, the upper atmosphere, collapsed to the greatest extent it's ever collapsed in the 100 years they've been studying it. And so basically this film deals with a partial collapse of the atmosphere. And in the video I shot yesterday, I hadn't read the novel yet, I talked about roasting children on spits. That is not in the film, but it turns out that's in the novel. I was reading reviews of it online, but it does deal with cannibalism and the worst and best in humanity, love versus hate. But I learned that globalist George Monbiot has been promoting the film as a way to scare people into giving into global carbon taxes and regulations. He actually promoted the novel when it won the Pulitzer Prize in 2007, and then was made into a film in the 2 years after that and was released last October. And the film is very multifaceted. It turns out the writer, Cormac McCarthy, and of course something this powerful would have a connection to that. And I learned this after shooting the video. Turns out this guy has had Annenberg funding, Rockefeller Foundation funding, but they fund thousands of novelists, and that's how they control culture. Because they understand that's a way to steer society. He doesn't do a lot of interviews, and so before I judge the author, I'm going to try to get in contact with him. And it turns out he's involved with this science fusion center in New Mexico. And when I talked about the film having so many archetypal, multi-layered messages, then doing research for several hours this morning, I discovered that's exactly what this guy's into. So that's why the film freaked me out so badly, is because it's everything I've already foreseen. And the system is implanting. In fact, my instincts were right last week. When I'd first seen it, I was on Mancow, and he asked me if I'd seen The Road. He said that it had disturbed him. And I said, yes, I believe they're planting these messages in the population, preparing us for mass die-off and mass death. And so this is really a addendum I'm doing live right now to the 10-minute video that we're going to be posting about The Road today. And I admire the art. I admire the understanding. I admire the beauty that is magnified by all of the ugliness. The ugliness is not beautiful. The beauty of the love of the family, the pro-Second Amendment message in it is very, very strong. The self-sufficiency message is very, very strong. And I associate these two quotes with the film. Adversity makes men and prosperity makes monsters, Victor Hugo. Courage and perseverance have a magical talisman before which difficulties disappear and obstacles vanish into air, John Quincy Adams. And we have these ancestral instinctive memories of asteroids hitting the Earth and supervolcanoes going off. And now NASA admits that they were wrong previously. Shoemaker-Levy, the comet decades ago that broke into many pieces and hit Saturn, blowing holes in the planet, in the gas giant bigger than the Earth. Studying with radioactive dating, the different isotopes, they know that many of the giant crater sites that are pot-marking the surface of the planet and the ocean floor happen more often than 10, 20, 30 million years, like scientists had previously thought. I mean, look at the surface of the moon. The face of the man on the moon is giant mega, meteor craters. So we know that mass catastrophe and collapse is happening every few 100,000 years, and that's conservative. The science points towards every 50,000 years, maybe every 10,000. And so as a species, we instinctively know that disaster is always right around the corner, and that life is transient, and that this earth is always changing. The only constant is change. And that the earth is being struck by giant meteorites. There are supervolcanoes, huge fault lines being change, tectonic forces. We know that war comes and kills millions of people, sometimes hundreds of million. We know that famine and starvation and disease, and that peaceful times, times of milk and honey, are very, very rare in the human experience. And so that's why this film resonates. And I wrote some notes, that speak to deep human truths here. There are other forms of social death. If you see an 18-wheeler carrying a bunch of cannibals in a collapsed society like Rwanda coming over the hill to hack you up with machetes and eat you, you know that threat. That's 100%. That's not creeping death. That's a full frontal assault. When you see a dam break and 100 feet of fast-moving water coming towards you, you know that's a threat. But the globalists are scientific in their system of control, and they admit that they are bringing in a form of creeping, soft kill, slow death, where they genetically modify the food to sterilize you and add chemicals to the cleaning products and to the foods, and silicone to many of the fast foods and prepared foods and processed foods. And that the sperm counts drop by over 80%. And then infertility is exploding, and cancers are up several thousand percentiles on every major front. And that this is designed. I mean, I have the globalist textbooks. We've shown you many of them here, like Eco Science, written by the White House science czar. So I wanted to speak directly to the people that are bathing our culture in films like Eli and The Road and others. All these constant 2012 movies, Meteor movies, viral release movies like I Am Legend, which is a remake of The Omega Man and The Last Man on Earth and others with Vincent Price. This is being done to introduce this idea so that we will accept it when it happens. And we've had our federal government since the 40s building the biggest underground complexes in the world. They admit they're the biggest, but they're secret, with decades of food supplies and nuclear power plants underground and Adam and Eve repopulation centers and huge seed banks all over the world funded by the Rockefellers and the UN and Rothschilds on record. I mean, this is mainstream news. And they say, oh, in case there's a total collapse. Well, I mean, I want to give you the big secret here, the biggest secret. They are planning a Moonraker scenario. The man that wrote Moonraker was, of course, a member of OSS and then MI6. He was a spy chief, Mr. Fleming. And in Moonraker, you have a globalist who is the richest man in the world, a robber baron, and he releases a biological weapon, or attempts to kill everyone on Earth, and he and his elite, the eugenics elite, the genetic elite, are going to stay off world for 2 years because the bioweapon is meant to run its course and then retrograde and break down into something harmless, and then they're going to come back and re-people the earth. This goes back to Plato and his Republic, saying we need to round up all the poor, kill them, and then only breed with the elite because we're smarter and better, and we're going to control the future, and humanity's crushing the breast of Mother Earth. This is the ultimate jealousy, the ultimate form of cannibalism. This is the ultimate form of controlling technology and hoarding information, the ultimate form of selfishness. And I want to say to the Rockefeller Foundation and to others that you are psychopaths and you are control freaks, and all of your history shows that, and you funded all the major wars the last 90-plus years since World War I, and you've done all of this on record to bring in your world government, and you hand out nuclear weapons to North Korea and to Pakistan. Our own government's done that. And you know that you're releasing salmon that have just been approved, that in major university studies cause a total extinction within 40 generations of the natural salmon. And these salmon themselves are a chimera cross species. You're on a power trip. You believe you control reality. You believe that you're going to destroy the earth so that we are all forced to die. You are committing us to this. You're going to go into your underground bunkers and then reemerge, you believe, and then eradicate all the GMO and replant. I mean, they actually state this. They have all these shows on Discovery Channel, you know, The World After Man, romanticizing how great it's going to be. I mean, you see it. And how we shouldn't have even one child now, and how there should be taxes on having children, and how humans are evil. We see this everywhere. And so if you're really concerned about the environment, if you're really concerned about what's happening in our world, many of you mainline, lower-level environmentalists are good people. And I notice a lot of the old environmentalists that helped grab land from people here in Austin with the SOS, they're now not part of it. They've woken up and they're fighting fluoridation of water, GMO food, things like that. I mean, that's the big issue that's hurting this planet. All the new viruses and genetically modified mosquitoes they're releasing. Now, that was in BBC 2 days ago. And all of this is the real threat. And fission fusion weapons and neutron weapons and antimatter weapons that the Air Force admits they've developed, but it's highly classified. They just admit they've developed it. And the Hadron Superconducting Supercollider, you know, their own scientists admit it could cause a strangelet, a singularity, a black hole.